Hello, I'm Shilpa Mehta, and this is Extraordinary Ancestors, the show where we uncover the amazing family histories of people from all over Britain. This week, we're in Cardiff. One of the most exciting things about tracing your family tree is you're never sure quite where it's going to lead you. This is Gail Howard and her son Alfie. Now, Gail had no idea we'd be taking her on a 12,000-mile round trip to the last outpost of the Russian Empire. We travelled all the way to the Russian Far East, where Russia meets China, North Korea and Japan. At one time an important Russian naval port, Vladivostock was only founded in 1860, and since then it's had quite a history. Gail knew her family were of Russian descent, but knew no more than that.
Well, I suppose I've always been interested in my grandmother's history. You know, I was very fond of her and I knew her quite well, and was always aware of her, you know, the fact that she was from Russia and had left when she was about 19, and I guess I've always found it really fascinating. I wanted to know a bit more about it.
So in a way, going on this trip means you find out more about her?
Yeah, well, I suppose I find out more about her, so I found out more about my mother and ultimately more about me in a way.
This is Vladivostock in front of us. Now, your great-great-grandfather, whose name was Otto Lindholm, came here in 1870 when he was 38 years old, and Vladivostock was only 10 years old. When he came here, this place was nothing. There was just 1,000 people living here, and there was virtually nothing going on. But by the time he left, there was 100,000 people, and this was a thriving city and port. And do you know who was responsible for the growth of this place?
Who?
Your great-great-grandfather.
Crikey.
He was responsible,
Really?
yeah, for building up this city. In fact, I've got a photograph.
Blimey.
There he is, Otto.
Which, him there?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's quite an aristocratic-looking fellow, isn't he?
Handsome devil.
But the reason we know so much about his life is because he wrote his memoirs when he was 75 years old. Yeah, he wrote it all from memory in 3.5 months. Look, I've got the book here. Memoirs of Otto W. Lindholm.
God. So, what, this is his book?
This is
about
his book.
him?
And here, look, he's dedicated it to his children. Beloved children, to you these memoirs are given by your father in memory of his life.
Blimey.
Otto loved the sea, and at 16 he decided that he was going to become a sailor. And in the next 20 years he actually sailed around the world 13 times and made a lot of money running a whaling business here in the Sea of Japan. And he used Vladivostock as his gateway from Russia for trade. It was no easy life out here on the seas for Otto, and on one whaling trip a whale smashed the boat in half and he fell into the water, freezing cold water, and we have an account here of what happened. If you read it from there.
I felt myself drowning with a very curious sensation. My whole life was as a mirror before me. Then I felt as if somebody tried to pull my skull off, and then I lost my senses.
Because he survived
Oh,
it.
his shoes were full of blood, pouring out of my stockings.
Revealed that the skin, flesh and sinews of the inside of my left leg was torn off and rolled up in a bundle by my knee, besides minor damage to my other leg.
Game old bird, wasn't he?
Yeah. It's amazing to think that he was in these waters.
Isn't it? Yeah, it is.
At that time, Vladivostock was a wild frontier town. The Russian Navy used it as an outpost to stock up on provisions. It was rough, sleazy, full of sailors, and the biggest trade was booze. Otto had only been using Vladivostock as a trading port between whaling trips, but in 1870 he had other ambitions and decided to settle here. Otto was clever. Geographically, he saw Vladivostock as a place full of opportunity. He stopped whaling and started to build his own empire.
I mean, I remember as a child these sort of, you know, I used to have these fantasies about, I used to tell all my friends I was a Russian princess, things like that. But I didn't know that they were rooted in anything. So, and you kind of build up these, you know, completely untrue sort of fantasies about. But it's actually much better, this, you know, it's much more interesting than my fantasies.
When Otto got here, he realised he could make much more money from the shipping and construction businesses. So he gave up whaling, and he had a few gold mines and flour mills as well.
Really?
Yeah, so he was a pretty shrewd businessman. He also had a lot of contracts with the government and the armed forces. So at the same time, he was building up a very powerful set of contacts. So your great-great-grandfather built these dry docks in 1889.
Really?
Yeah, and it was really famous because it was the largest outside of Europe and the biggest in the Far East. And the Tsar's son Nicholas came and ceremoniously laid the first brick. And it's pretty much as it was in his day. That is the original warehouse that Otto built.
What, that there?
Yeah, and it's as it was as well. And if you look over there, it says in 1897 the first ship came in. And look, Gail, I've got a picture of that first ship coming in now.
No way.
And that was Otto. He was responsible for bringing that in.
That's us there, yeah?
Yeah, that's where we're standing. The ship would have come in here. It's amazing, isn't it?
Mm.
And to build it, he had to import 3,000 tonnes of cement and machinery from Manchester and 10,000 tonnes of coal from Cardiff.
Did he?
Yeah.
Blimey, I'm a bit speechless actually.
Are you?